What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with a market update for the vintage collection. And we've got some sales for ungraded items, lots of graded items that sold. I've got some custom diorama type stuff that has sold, and I also will put a link in the video description to those dioramas in case you want to buy another example that is currently on eBay. And I need to say thank you to a couple of channel supporters. First, I need to say thanks to Jeff Emerson. He recently became a Patreon supporter, so thanks so much. And I also need to say thank you to Laugh It Up Fuzzball 70. He sent me a super for one of my videos last week, and Blacked Out Ewoks, who is on YouTube and is a good friend of mine, he mentioned that Laugh It Up Fuzzball used to do a lot of videos for the vintage collection. So thank you so much for sending that super. Really appreciate it, and I'm going to try to make a concerted effort for this year that anyone that sends a super to give you guys a shout out, because it means a lot that you guys like my videos enough to send a super. Just to kind of support the channel. So that is really, really generous of you guys. And we've got some really cool sales here that I want to go through. So the first one is this seller over in the UK. He had a couple of punched examples that I wanted to cover that I thought sold for very fair prices. First is the Anakin Skywalker name pill, Revenge of the Sith, Anakin, and obviously the Darth Vader name pill is another one. This is a punched example of the Anakin, very expensive in an unpunched example. Stay tuned to my what to buy video next week for some really nice unpunched examples of some TVC 1.0 in high grade that are for sale. So stay tuned for that tomorrow. But this one was punched and it sold over in the UK for 86 pounds, which is 109 US dollars. And then the same seller also had the Obi-Wan Kenobi. And this one sold for 103 pounds, which is 130 US dollars. And both of those prices are kind of right in line with market. You can expect to pay quite a bit more for this one unpunched. I've seen as high as $200 here recently, maybe even over that, depending on condition. And then for an unpunched Anakin, it's very pricey, very tough to find that one. Tim over at Boss Bounty said, hey, if you can find one of those unpunched, very tough to find that one. So anyway, I just wanted to point those two sales out. Next up, Grand Moff Tarkin. That is one that I've highlighted in recent videos that has really come down in price, unpunched on the US card. So if you're looking for that one, I know the sculpt is not great. They probably need to update it and kind of re-release it with an updated, photoreal technology of Peter Cushing, is that his name? Last name? I can't remember people's names anymore. But this is a figure that definitely needs an update. But if you're into the TVC 1.0, this one last year was going 175-ish, somewhere in that ballpark, maybe plus or minus 25 bucks. But this one sold free shipping for 120 US dollars. So a pretty good deal, I think, for VC 98 Grand Moff Tarkin. And now's a good time to kind of fill in that hole if you're looking for that one, because that price has definitely really dropped here recently. Next up, I thought this was kind of worth pointing out. This had the Celebration 2-pack with the foil Forlom and Zuckuss, and this came in kind of a cool custom case, sliding acrylic case, where they were both kind of together. I just thought that was interesting because I had never seen a sliding acrylic case like this where you could have two of them together. And if you're ever going to do it, this is kind of the 2-pack to do it with. And so you could do it with the Ewoks that just came out, or, anything else that kind of came in these 2-packs. But I thought this was kind of a nice sale. 131 euros, which is 142 US dollars plus shipping for those two foil examples in really good shape, plus the sliding acrylic case. It's called a Morax sliding acrylic case. I had never heard of that company before, but maybe GW Acrylic makes one or Case Shells makes one. I don't know, but just thought I'd point that out because it was a really awesome display piece. Next up, I've got a couple of different VC64 Slave Leias that sold. The first one was a punched example with the prototype limited edition Boba Fett mail away. So this is the retail release with the Return of the Jedi logo. That one sold for $200 plus $5.90 shipping. It looked to be in really great shape. And then this one also sold in an auction. This is the Revenge of the Jedi offerless, and no paperwork inside the blister, so you know that the prototype Fett offer sticker was not removed. And so this is a really good one because this is probably the SDCC Death Star box set version that came out. So this is the very tough to find unpunched Revenge of the Jedi offer list. And that one sold for $355 and change in an auction plus $10 shipping, which is actually not a bad deal, really, given that these can oftentimes go for over $400 and pretty well over $400. I've seen $450 to $475. So in an auction, you're going to do better. And, even these tougher to find ones that came in the SDCC Death Star box set, even these will appear at auction sometimes, so look for those auctions. And next up, I've got probably another fairly low data point for the original VC-102 Ahsoka unpunched US card. And I think the lowest price I've seen recently for this one is $175. So think about that. Think about how much this one has dropped since not only the reissue, but from the highs that were the VC-102, when all the hype was surrounding the new Ahsoka series coming out in the future, and before they announced the reissue, they were going for big money. It's just crazy how much this one has dropped. So this one was listed for $200 and sold for $190, and it was pretty clean. I mean, a very clean condition, unpunched again, US card for $190. It's just an incredible drop in the price for that. But anyway, that's kind of the new price, is that $175 to under $200 now. So be on the lookout. Again, now's a good time to pick up some of these TVC 1.0 if you were kind of balking at those crazy prices from a year to a year and a half ago. Next up, I've got some vehicles that sold mint and sealed box. We've got the Return of the Jedi version of the AT-AT, and this one sold in a buy it now situation up in Canada for 490 Canadian, which is 363 US dollars. Now that is definitely a lot lower than some of the other data points we've seen, but keep in mind that this one was not perfect. You can see some wear to the box right here, two big kind of crinkles at the bottom of the front of the box, but otherwise pretty clean box there for sub $364. Now, admittedly, it was $85 shipping. So certainly, once you factor that in, here's some other damage to it also. While I can think about it, you can see some damage up there. So, we've documented here recently on the channel that even factoring in shipping, a lot of these are going for a lot more. So if you could live with some damage to the box like this one had, it wasn't significant damage, but it wasn't perfect either. And, let's call that sub $475 after accounting for shipping plus taxes, sales taxes. So, that's quite a bit lower than some of the other data points we've seen for the AT-AT. And again, this was on the Return of the Jedi packaging, the Empire Strikes Back packaging. We've seen in the $700 or $800 range for that. So anyway, just another data point I wanted to point out. I've got the B-Wing fighter. The box on this one also was not perfect. It did have some damage. That one sold for $228. And then I've got the Y-Wing fighter. The box on this one looked pretty good. Not much damage, just some very slight edge wear at the top of the bottom there, and probably just from sitting on the shelf and sliding on the shelf. That one sold for $120 plus $30 shipping, so let's call that $150 for the Y-Wing Vintage Collection version. Next up, we've got another Y-Wing. This one, I think actually the box on this one looked to be a little bit cleaner than the first one. This one sold for $162.50 plus $15 shipping. So let's call that $177 versus this one that sold for $150 with just some slight edge wear, one little ding in the lower left-hand corner there. So, again, it depends on condition, admittedly, but anywhere from $150 to about $175 seems to be the going rate for a mint and seal box TVC Y-Wing fighter. The Millennium Falcon in the original box, the Toys R Us kind of original Star Wars racetrack there, that one sold for $720. Now, Brian's Toys had one at auction that was not nearly as pristine as this box. This box was pretty clean. You can see one little ding maybe right there in the corner, although you could argue that's probably from the factory, but it's tape sealed. The box was as clean as you probably can find these days, given that it's from 2012. I mean, we're going on 12 years old now for this particular Falcon, and $720 for that one. Now, the one that Brian's Toys had was not perfect. The box had some damage, but it was still mint and seal box. That one sold for $563, and I think that was about a week or two ago. Next up, I've got some graded items, and shout out to Mark C, who picked up this one. He sent me a private message to say, look at this deal I got. This was an uncirculated 95 Range Trooper from the Solo film, and he got this one for 33 US dollars or 26 pounds plus shipping on that. And his shipping was not nearly as bad as the shipping that I would have had to pay here in the US. But that's a really good deal for, you know, I know it's a secondary character. It's not particularly popular, but to me, I always loved the Range Trooper. I thought the coat was kind of cool that he wore, and that scene in Solo on top of the train where they were stealing the coaxium. I can't believe I came up with that. My memory is so bad. I can't believe I came up with coaxium. I think that's the name of it. But anyway, Mark C., Patreon supporter and good friend of the channel. He's an admin in the Rebels TVC group on Facebook that I mentioned last week, and I'll put another link to their group in the video description. He got this one in a great deal, 33 US dollars for an uncirculated 95 Range Trooper. Same seller had some others that were for sale. The Imperial Assault Tank Driver, this was another one that was uncirculated 95. I thought this was a good deal. I mean, they go for this price in the US, or not much less, ungraded. And this one was a U95. It sold for 80 US dollars, which is 63 pounds. And again, at least over here in the US, they can go for $65 to $85 pretty regularly. Next up was Han Solo from the Solo movie. And this one was another uncirculated 95. That one actually went for 101 pounds, which is 128 US dollars. And I was a little surprised that that one went so high. It's kind of one of those characters that, ungraded, it's like 12 bucks in the US. So a little surprising on that one. Luke Skywalker from The Last Jedi, that one sold for 133 US dollars. That also was an uncirculated 95 grade. So just a couple of interesting UKG graded TVC that sold at auction. And this seller does have, I believe, some others that are at auction right now that I'll be sure to highlight in my What to Buy video next week, or excuse me, tomorrow, because they seem to be going for the most part, in line, or maybe it depends on the character, obviously, but some of these went a little higher than I expected, but some of those I think you might be able to sneak in there and get some good deals on some auctions. We're back with Power Droid. Power Droid had some incredible TVC 1.0 that sold, and this was an uncirculated 95 grade, and this one actually had the 3-tier grading from AFA with the label in the bottom, which is where most collectors seem to like it, the Classic View label. And this one was the Shea Vizsla, the original issue, U95 grade, and it was listed for 200 US dollars. It sold for $175. That is a bargain of a deal for a U95 Shea Vizsla. I mean, they were going for 100 to 125 easily ungraded, and to get an uncirculated 95 for 175 bucks, that was a great deal. He also had this uncirculated 9.5 grade Revenge of the Jedi retail release for Boba Fett. That one sold on the other end of the spectrum for big money. It sold for $600, a massive number there, but admittedly it was an uncirculated 9.5 for one of the most popular characters. The US card unpunched. Wow, just a big sale there. He also had some of these Lost Line figures that I wanted to highlight. An uncirculated 9.0 Lost Line Shock Trooper. That one sold for $140. He had the Emperor's Wrath on the Lost Line card back in a 9.25 grade. That one sold for $160. So it's not very often you find these graded. Most people kind of skip over the Lost Line. It's kind of an afterthought, and it's kind of appropriately named. Lost in people's memory, lost in people's collecting focus. But this 9.25 Darth Vader Emperor's Wrath did sell for $160. They had the Dirty Apps Sand Trooper in an uncirculated 9.0. That one sold for $140. And then the SDCC exclusive Princess Leia uncirculated 9.0 Leia Bespin, that one sold for $145. So I just wanted to highlight those because those were some interesting sales that you don't see pop up very often graded. And then finally, I wanted to show these customs. This is an incredible custom. I don't know the seller, but he apparently sells quite a bit. He's got 1,600 sales, 1,685 sales, but this is an incredible diorama that I had to show you. Look how beautiful this diorama is. And it's the interior of the Millennium Falcon for 3.75 scale TVC figures. I mean, look how awesome the details are on this. And they're for sale for $160. One of them has sold. There's 2 still available. And it says scaled for the Black Series. I don't think that's correct, though. Maybe it is. Let's see. So maybe I was incorrect to put this one here. Let's see. 3D printed. It's scaled for 3.75 inch figures. So I was right to include this one. It says scaled for the Black Series there, but I think that's incorrect. This is scaled for apparently 3.75 inch. Now, they're in Sri Lanka, okay? So be careful, all right? I'm not saying that this guy's a scammer. I'm just saying that it is in Sri Lanka, and he does have 99.3% positive feedback. So I'm assuming you're going to get it, all right? So I will include a link in the video description with an eBay affiliate link in case you want to buy one of these. I just had to show it because it really is an incredible diorama. And then he also, same seller also has the Death Star tractor beam terminal. I just thought that the detail on these is so awesome. I mean, I just love the way it looks. And there's a good kind of 3D printed kind of modeling photo there. But the detail on these is really incredible. And that one is $125. 11 of those have sold. So I think you're going to get it just fine, given that 11 of them have sold, and he's got positive feedback. He looks like he's had one negative feedback, probably from someone who was impatient, knowing that this is coming from Sri Lanka. So just keep that in mind. It's going to take a little bit longer for it to arrive. But anyway, I will include links in the video description for these two in case you want. A lot of you that collect the vintage collection, you're not just mint on card collectors. A lot of you do have shelves where you kind of do dioramas and things like that. So I just thought that these were worth pointing out because the detail on them is pretty incredible. And I'm shocked that, that the vintage collection Hasbro has not put out something like this, just because it's probably fairly simple to make and would be pretty profitable, and they could put it out for about the same price at $125. So he's got 4 still available. 11 of them have sold. And again, for both of those dioramas, I'll include a link in the video description to the eBay affiliate link in case you want to buy one. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look at what's happening in the vintage collection. Thanks, as always, for watching, and I'll be back soon.